Welcome to this episode of Best of America by Horseback. I'm Tom Seay. On this episode, we're going to take you to Michigan, a place called Mackinac Island. It's right on the Great Lakes, and it's a very special place at the Grand Hotel. This is a place that takes you back in time, where time is a little slower, life is a little better. It's an elegance and a great part of American history. This is a place where horses are king on this island, and everywhere that you go, including to and from the hotel, is by Carriage. And speaking of carriages, they have some of the finest carriages in America that have carried presidents and the very best of everything. Anything that comes to and from this island is by horses and carriage or horses and wagons. You're going to love this episode as a place to come see and visit where life is just the very best of America. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
On this episode of Best of America by Horseback, Tom Seay is visiting the Grand Hotel, located in Michigan on Mackinac Island. We will look at the hotel's grand assortment of horse-drawn buggies and carriages, all working today. The island is famous for being an equestrian-driven society where all motorized vehicles are banned, and the horse, carriage, and bicycle are the main modes of transportation. The hotel has a rich history dating back to its opening in the summer of 1887 and has been a must-see attraction for visitors to the island ever since. The Grand Hotel is a National Historic Landmark. It was the main location for the 1980 classic film Somewhere in Time, starring Christopher Reeve and Jane Seymour. And the hotel hosts an annual convention every October for fans of this film. When guests arrive by horse-drawn carriage to the hotel, they are greeted warmly and welcomed into this beautiful piece of American history. The Grand offers nearly 400 guest rooms, all uniquely designed and decorated, so every time you visit, you'll find something new and refreshing. The hotel also boasts the longest porch in the world, where guests and visitors can sit back, enjoy refreshments, and take in the gorgeous views the location has to offer. The dances held nightly are a treasured experience that anyone can take part in. For those who are not staying at the hotel, there are still a variety of options to enjoy while visiting, including dinner at the hotel's several restaurants, walking peacefully along the 660-foot porch, strolling the incredible gardens on the grounds, shopping at the in-hotel stores, golfing, swimming, and fitness, the beloved Sadie's ice cream parlor, and much more. While visiting Mackinac Island, guests can find horses everywhere they go, from trail riding to horse-drawn taxicabs. This is a unique place in the world for horse lovers to enjoy. The Grand Hotel has been owned and operated for 85 years by 3 generations of the Musser family, who have been charming guests since its opening. The current president, Dan Musser III, spoke with us about the personal family history of the hotel and what makes this location so special.
Most people in your position at a place like this, people never get to meet them and see them. But you're always out in the middle. People that come here generation after generation to get to know them. That's something you enjoy.
Very much so. Much so. I think it adds value, I hope, to our guest experience. It certainly does personally, because I get to know a wide variety of individuals from all walks of life. But also think it helps our staff in that they know that there's a Musser here that cares about the place and wants it clean, wants it done nicely, wants hopefully our guests to feel like you're coming into their own home as well. And I think walking around and being visible and part of the hotel is a big part of that.
People travel around the world in a lot of wonderful places, and there's memories of those places, but here it's more of it's almost like a sacred experience. They take away the thought of someone who did something extra for them, or to somebody that met them or helped them with something. It's an interweaving of staff, and that's really important to you, isn't it?
Very much so. I think it is about the overall experience, and we like real stuff. We like real flowers. We like real music, and we try to have that throughout the building. And I think that permeates into what we do. I mean, we're certainly not perfect, but if we're not, we try to make it so.
I have a curiosity and a fascination with your family. You can't be here more than a minute or two, and whoever you're talking to on the staff, whether it's here downstairs in the lobby or it's at the stables or the carriages, they're always talking about the family. The family is in every word, and is the philosophy of the family is that the backbone of this entire operation?
I don't know which came first. You know, I've grown up in this environment, and so I think it's a little bit of both. And I consider a lot of our staff, which are long-term, part of our family. So I don't know which is which.
We could walk out and we couldn't find anything that needs to be improved. But you're probably walking
You're
around
not looking too hard.
You're
There's
walking
always
around
something
saying,
to prove.
we can tweak this and we can tweak
Oh,
that.
very much so.
That really does drive you, doesn't it?
Very much so. My dad always said we're a business of details, and that is what I strive to follow and look at. When we have a burnout light bulb, we have a carpet that needs tending, we need to look at that. And I think, like I said earlier, try to make it like it is not only our house you're walking to, but every one of our staff members' home. And I think if we can accomplish that, we'll provide a great experience for our guests that's a little bit unique from other hotels maybe in the world.
A lot of people didn't realize that at this island, they'll never see a vehicle anywhere. It's all horse-drawn carriages and so forth, and your horse-drawn carriages are absolutely the ultimate. Horses are a great part of this island and this property, aren't they?
Well, ironically, here in Michigan, we banned automobiles. And I always joke with when the Ford family comes or anyone, executives from GM comes, that, you know, here you are at a meeting that we don't let your products, come here. But you're right, and that's very much part of our community. I think, the fact that we are a year-round community. We have a school, we have a hospital, we have a doctor, we have churches that are open year-round. We're a living community that's here year-round. Now, granted, June, July, August, it's a little different than it is in February, March, April.
If there was no one here today and no one around and you're wandering through the Grand Hotel, what's your favorite part? What's your favorite room or suite or?
I've always loved the dining room, and like I said earlier, not because it's stuffy, but I think there's kind of a celebration going on every night. It's lively but not too loud. There's live music, but it's not invasive. There's couples, families enjoying what they're doing. Everyone's dressed up nicely and kind of enjoying watching them walk down the parlor. And there's one day in the fall coming up here that the sun hits. There's a door here at the far end of the parlor, and it goes all the way through the parlor, all the way through the dining room. And if you stand in our dining room and look at you can see our waiters and guests walking through with the sunlight hitting them this time of year, knowing that the season's ending, but I also know that hopefully in the spring they'll come back.
It's such a pleasure to meet you. It's such a pleasure to be here. The show is Best of America by Horseback, but the essence of the very best of America is really here at the Grand Hotel, and it's certainly a pleasure to meet you.
Thanks so very much.
And to be here and keep on doing whatever you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
We're on Mackinac Island. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Best of America by Horseback is visiting the Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island in Michigan. Tom Seay sat down with Bob Taggett, the hotel's on-site historian, for an intimate look at the hotel and its history.
One thing unique about this location is the horses, the involvement of the horses to the island. And for people who aren't familiar with the Grand Hotel, Let's back up a little bit. There was
Sure.
a movie or two shot here. Talk about that.
We've had several movies here in the hotel. The first one was shot in the 1920s. It was a pirate film. It was shot at the east end of the hotel. We don't even have a copy of that. We struggled a long time. Transportation companies subsidized us. Private money tried to make it work. What really pushed us over the edge, truthfully, to profitability was the movies. 1946, Esther Williams, Xavier Cugat, Jimmy Durante came here, shot one of her famous Aqua musicals, this time for keeps. It was released in 47, and friends, we had no idea the power of Hollywood. People beat our doors down. 1950, we started turning a solid profit. We named the pool after Esther Williams. It's still called that today. We built her a suite. She used it her whole life. The movie we're most associated with, though, is Somewhere in Time. And Somewhere in Time was filmed here in 1979. Christopher Reeve, Jane Seymour, Teresa Wright, Christopher Plummer. It was released in 1980. It did so-so at the box office when it was introduced. It was introduced during an actor strike, but it started picking up momentum. Today it has the second largest fan club and following of any single release movie after Gone with the Wind. I've been here over 20 years. I've never had a day when people didn't ask me about that movie.
What do you see on this island as far as the horses, and there are no motorized vehicles allowed here?
121 years we banned the automobile, yes sir.
It's banned, but y'all take the horses and take it to a higher level with the carriages here.
Sure.
The shop, the carriage house can't be matched anywhere in the country. The
Thank
care
you.
of the horses, but yet the guests don't just get to see it, they get to experience it because they're brought here in your carriages. Talk about that, how important it is.
You know, people always say, media folks like yourself, what's the one thing? There's no one thing. Coming to this island on a boat, getting on a 100-year-old carriage, coming to a 131-year-old hotel. The horse culture is probably the biggest part, to be honest with you. This is a horse culture. Most people go look at a horse culture once a year at their county fair for an hour. This is a 7th generation, living, breathing, over 500 horses. Everything that moves on this island moves behind a horse. If you need a motor vehicle permit, you have to prove to the city council that it can't be done behind a horse. And you have to hire a vehicle to precede that vehicle to get it here. So if it can be moved behind a horse, it does it. And it's all the work. It's not just the tours, it's not just the taxis. Every piece of food, everything that's recycled, everything that's taken care of. It's an amazing thing to watch, to not just look at history, but to come and be a part of history and see how it really works in an honest and genuine way.
Sometimes I get to ask somebody a question, and I've got to phrase it this way.
Okay.
Do you pinch yourself in the morning saying, I can't believe what the job is I have and where I work?
Even some days I know I'm going to have a challenging day because there's a lot going on, but I walk up the hill and I see this hotel, and I know there's somebody somewhere in the city working in a cubicle that would like to have his bad day at a place like this.
Someday when you get to the point where you're retired and you're sitting in one of these beautiful rocking chairs on this beautiful porch, and a kid runs up to you and says, what was the neatest day you ever had here? Do you have a memory of something that happened here, whether it was a wedding or a movie or a special guest? What's the memory that comes to mind? This was my highlight.
Wow, there's so many, but most of them are not the celebrities or presidents came here. It's a simple thing. Someone that maybe couldn't come to this hotel, that has an experience, has a chance to come here, that wouldn't have. Me, myself, you know, I work here, I travel, I have the opportunity to go to beautiful places. When you see somebody come here and they say, geez, I never thought I could come here, or I came here 50 years ago on a steamship, seeing them return and the wonder in their eyes of seeing what we offer, that's the biggest part.
The name of the show is Best of America by Horseback, and would you agree that this hotel has to be the very best of America?
Oh, I would more than agree with you on that one.
It's a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you, Tom.
Pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you.
When we return, we'll speak with the hotel's stable manager and take a look at the museum filled with more than a century of history, including many carriages still in use today. Stay tuned, we'll be right back. Welcome back. Tom Seay and Best of America by Horseback are visiting the historic Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island in Michigan. The Grand Hotel has a top-of-the-line stable known as the Grand Stables, as well as a small museum. We had the opportunity to speak with stable manager Ben Mosley while visiting the Grand Stables. Ben gave us a tour where they store, maintain, and display dozens of antique carriages that are still used for transporting guests to and from the Grand Hotel.
We're at Grand Hotel Stables. This is our carriage museum. This is a working museum, and it's attached to a working stable. A little different than a lot of places. The carriage collection includes about 30 carriages and sleighs. Everything in the building is rolling stock. You can hook onto every carriage in here.
Now, I've got to ask you, because there are people watching, and your secret is safe with me.
Okay.
Do you remember the first time you picked up a pair of lines?
No, sir. My earliest memories are standing in between my dad's legs and driving horses with my hands behind his. Probably 4 or 5 years old. And I can remember when he would put my hands ahead of his and he would hold down onto the bite of the lines.
Before we get into it, I've got to relate this question to you. I had a vis-a-vis and I have a carriage at home, and we had a, quote, professional driver. Came down, a teamster, and he was riding with me, and he would take the lines, and you couldn't hardly see the difference, and the horse changed. Couldn't see us, but the contact with those lines, he couldn't handle that horse, and I could ride or drive with it, with loose lines. How sensitive, how important is it for those lines, communication between your hands and that horse?
Okay, when you ride a horse, you can use leg pressure and different amounts of leg pressure. So you have to replace that. Basically, not only do you replace it with line pressure, you also replace it with your voice and cues with the whip. My horses, basically to turn the 90-degree angle, I drive what's called Achenbach style, which is a European style. Both reins in one hand, both lines in one hand. And to turn 90 degrees is that far. That's to turn a street corner. Basically, the horses' mouths have to become more sensitive in order to be able to drive them and drive them with any precision. These hackney horses that I have are extremely soft. I would say I probably have about 2.5 or 3 pounds of pressure in my hands.
And that horse knows when you're driving versus someone else?
Yes.
That's a true fact.
That's a very true fact. The only person that drives the horses that I drive is actually my daughter, who's my assistant manager. And you can stand back, she'll admit to it, you can stand back and watch. They do react just slightly differently. It's just a matter of that sensation in their mouth. They're very, very sensitive.
Well, this particular coach here, what year would it have been made?
This carriage was made by A.S. Flandreau somewhere in the early 1870s.
So you actually not only have these on display, you use them.
Yes, we drive them on a regular basis. This carriage in a summer season will go out probably about 3 dozen times, possibly a little bit more. It's usually to take VIP guests, friends of the owner. Generally, about 3 dozen times or so, this carriage itself will go out. We use it mostly as a summer vehicle. We put it out on the road with just a pair normally. Occasionally, we will hook a 4-in-hand on it. Sometimes we'll do it very formally, braid the horses up, put a little more formal harness on the horses. Myself and whoever's with me will dress a little more formally, in a full livery, and we'll do it up kind of formally. A lot of times we'll even hook a 3 abreast on this. This carriage is set up to where we can hook 3 abreast. So it's kind of a diverse carriage. It's a lot of fun. It's a neat carriage. It's actually the oldest carriage in our collection, but it's the newest carriage to the collection. We purchased this just 6 years ago, and we had it restored 5 years ago.
When I look around this collection, you got such a wonderful collection. They look so neat and so nice. I can't hardly believe that you would want to take them out and use them.
Oh, they really want to be used. They'll tell you that they like to be driven.
If you'd like to learn more about visiting the Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island in Michigan, you can visit their website at www.grandhotel.com or call them at 1-800-33-GRAND.